So let's create a new PHP file and we're going to save it as crud.php, which, as I mentioned in the previous video, is for our staff to edit the database essentially. The easiest thing to do now is probably to copy everything from the register file, paste it in there, and then simply clean it out so that it's ready to use as I'm doing now. And I think we'll just start from about there. So the first item we're going to tick off is actually blocking students from accessing this page, because it's a staff page. You don't really want students to be able to edit what's in the database for this particular application. So what we're going to do is add some code here, an if statement that says if the person logged in and accessing this page is not a staff member, then we're going to actually redirect them somewhere else or tell them that access is denied. So we need an if statement, obviously, and we'll set that up and we'll say if is set $, and our variable is a session variable called email, which is created when they log in. So if that's set, which means someone is logged in, and also that person logged in has a staff account, which is $session _session and then staff. If that's equal to 1, then we'll output their account details, else we'll redirect them to back to login or something along those lines. So let's get our redirect with the 2-second delay and echo something telling them they're not allowed in. Oops. As well. So we'll echo access denied, because you're not allowed to access this part of the web application. We'll redirect to say go away. We'll redirect to login. In here, if they are logged in and they're a staff member, then we'll echo some details such as their email. Get that from session. What else will we echo? We'll echo their user ID perhaps, which is quite handy to have on hand, which you'll see later. So we go user ID, and that's equal to what we stored in the session, which is under, according to our login, user ID with a lowercase u. And we'll test that and make sure it actually works by going to, not to OBS, by going to crud. And you can see there that all looks pretty good. Let's log out and then try and access that without logging in. And it says access denied and redirects us to login. Excellent. Okay, so that's done. Now we need to, as I said, this video is about reading from the database, so we need to actually do that now. And what that'll involve is outputting what's in the database in the products table to a HTML table. So obviously we're going to need an SQL statement to retrieve what's in the database. We're also going to need to loop through the results of that SQL query and then output the results to the HTML table. So let's put in a table for echoing what's in the database. And the first thing we'll do is build the framework for that. So we need a row with a number of headers. These headers are what's in the database. And it's product ID, product name, supplier ID, category ID, unit price, and quantity. we're going to need those here so that they match up. Product name, what was it? Supplier ID, category ID, unit, which refers to, I guess, how the product is stored, price, and quantity. And that's our first row of our table. Let's test that and make sure it's actually showing up by logging in as a staff member. Redirects us to index, obviously, when we log in, but we need to go to crud, and you can see that our table is echoing the headings. Good. Okay. Next item on the agenda is actually getting what's in the database. This is a really easy SQL query. You should all know. So it's just select everything from the database or select asterisk from products. There's no clauses or anything like that. To execute SQL in a PHP file, obviously we need some PHP delimiters. And our SQL query, which is well named, is SQL select. And as I said, that's equal to select everything from products, which is our table name. We then need to store the results of that query in an object. And the result equals MySQL query. And that executes the query above against the connection. And it was SQL select. We then want to place those results into an array to loop through, which we'll do. But first we'll say if there's any results. In other words, if MySQLi_num rows of that result object is above 0, so there are results, take some space, then we want to loop through those with a while loop. So while there are results, we want to loop through them and put them into the table. So we're sort of combining some PHP and HTML here. Okay, so while we place the results into an array, so MySQL fetch array of result. You can skip the if statement here, but it's probably good practice to just leave it in there so that you don't get any errors if there are no results, for example. It might cause issues for your loop. Then we're going to, this is where we're going to output what's in the SQL query results into the table. So we need to actually close off the PHP delimiters now. Reopen them here for those closing curly braces. Notice how everything lines up. And then our HTML goes here. So we need a new row. And in that row, we're going to have each record from our results. So each row of our results from our SQL query. So table data is echoed through PHP. So echo row, and we're echoing the first row, which is product ID. Okay, so we're doing this repetitively or repeatedly in same row. The next one is product name, and then it's supplier ID, and so on and so forth. Just make sure I haven't made an error there. My PHP before I copy and paste everything. I have to go and fix it. Category ID. And let's just type it in unit, price, and quantity. if all goes to plan, that should now output into our HTML table, which ends down here. And let's make sure that works by going back to crud. And you can see there, our database table products now reads into our crud page. So that's working, and we can move on to creating a new entry in our products table in the next video.